Welcome back to Unaware Commentary, the place for Pokemon TCG battle narration that doesn't care about the stats.
Welcome back, trainers, to another exciting Pokemon TCG battle narration here on the channel. We are taking a look at our opening hands with our players. Our player 1 on the left with that Meowth mat, player 2 on the right with that Pokemon Center Skyline mat. We're setting out our prize cards here and getting started. Player 1 starting off the game with a Duskull in the active position, Monkey Dory on the bench. Player 2 starting the game off with that Torchic in the active position, going straight into the deck after drawing for the turn, utilizing an Ultra Ball, discarding a Dragapult EX and a Fire Energy, considering what other resources may not be immediately necessary in that opening hand. Taking a look through the deck here, trying to figure out what basic Pokemon or what Pokemon we may want, looking usually for basic Pokemon to get that bench set up here. It is going to be a Dreepy, as shown by that discarded Dragapult EX. This is going to be that Dragapult EX Dusknoir deck, utilizing Dusknoir to boost some of those damage numbers. We did see a pass over to our player 1, the playing of a Pokepad. Going into the deck, finding a non-rule box Pokemon is going to be that Bidoof, finding its way to the bench, a second Pokepad being played, finding a Dreepy that will also find its way onto the bench there, playing of a Meowth EX from the hand, using that last ditch catch ability to go into the deck, find a supporter card and place it into the hand. It looks like a Lily's Determination, the most popular card in the current standard format, being that it allows for the shuffling away of a handful of resources that may not be essential at the moment, like that Unfair Stamp and that Night Stretcher, and drawing of 8 cards, as we do not meet the condition to draw down to 6. Lily's Determination: once you have taken a prize card, you're only able to draw 6 cards, whether that's taking a knockout on your own or sometimes being given a prize by that Curse Blast ability that we see on the Duskull, or on the Duskull family line, with that Dusknoir and that Dusclops, both having that Curse Blast ability that will give up prizes. But right now, seeing that full 8 cards, taking a look at what we may want to do, potentially going back into the deck, we do see the option to set up a second Torchic, a option to play a Buddy Poffin. Did not immediately see an energy, as we do want to try to get this Torchic out of the active, get that Bidoof into the active so that we can start Itchy Pollen, using that Itchy Pollen. Did see the fetching of a Dreepy out of the deck, either with that Buddy Poffin that was in the hand, or perhaps a Pokepad. Pokepad, a more flexible resource, so likely being saved. So it was that Buddy Poffin, as it was no longer in the hand. No energy for attachment to be able to get that Bidoof in the active. Are just going to see a pass back over, quick evolution of the Dusclops into a Dusclops into the active, and a Dracloak on the bench, a Lily's Determination, shuffling away that hand, taking a look at 8 fresh new cards, as well as we're going to see 2 additional with that Recon Directive. Unlikely that we are going to see an attack this turn, potentially a Curse Blast if we feel it is necessary to clear off that Bidoof or to get a damage spread, but we're going to just see as many cards as we can here, try to get some additional Dreepies set up on the bench so we don't just have that lone Dracloak. And there they are. Found 2 of them off of that Lily's Determination right onto the bench. No need to be able to play any of those. We could actually play those item cards as a handful of items, with Bidoof being present. We're going to see 3 Pokepads, trying to be nice and efficient with our time here, going into the deck, looking for 3 non-rule box Pokemon, so potentially fetching out Dracloaks for the following turn. Do see that we are looking at a Bidoof. It's going to be a Bidoof and 2 Dracloak. Ooh, considering potentially a Dusknoir instead of one of those other Pokemon. Not going to be the Dusknoir, just going to be those 2 Dracloaks and that Bidoof making their way into the hand, those Pokepads finding their way into the discard pile. Considering what our options here are going to be, as those Dreepies did just come into play this turn. Do we put that Bidoof down and potentially Curse Blast to get that Dusclops out of the active, and try to limit the resources to our player 1 here with Itchy Pollen, as our player 1 similarly wants to be able to go into the deck, look for those Dracloaks. Yep, we're going to see that Curse Blast go off of both of our players, going to be taking a prize, as those 50 damage counters are going to land on the Bidoof on the bench, the promotion of our player 1's Bidoof from the bench to the active. Considering what we want to do, if we want to go back into the deck before we Itchy Pollen for the turn and lock down those items. We do see the Itchy Pollen dealing 10 damage to the active Torchic for our player 2 and locking them out of items. Unfortunately, the Blaziken version of the Dragapult deck heavily reliant on rare candies, as we can see 2 in our player 2's hand, to try to get those stage 2 Pokemon into play, really trying to hit that turn 2 Dragapult as being able to discard energies and utilize the Blaziken EX to get energy accelerated into play and get early Phantom Dives is the reason to play the 2 big stage 2 lines, but not going to see any of those big EX Pokemon this turn as they are stage 2s, and we are locked out of items due to that Itchy Pollen on the Badoo. We did see the playing of a Lily's Determination and being shuffled in, drawing 6 cards now as a prize was given away or taken still off of that Dusknoir. Considering what our other options may be here, we do see an energy find its way to the hand off of that Lily's Determination, so attaching that to the active Torchic, trying to see if there may be a way to get the Badoo back here, try to lock out some of our opponent's options. We do see a Team Rocket's Watchtower turning off of the abilities of colorless type Pokemon. A lot of times Dragapults have been slotting in a Dunsparce line into their decks, and so that would turn that off, as well as turning off the ability of our player 1 to utilize Meowth, as our player 2 has demonstrated Meowth a great resource to be able to find supporters. We do see the unfair stamp being played, the A-spec choice of this Dragapult Blaziken deck, being able to parse down our player's hands, our player 2 drawing 5 cards, player 1 only drawing 2, so a limited hand to work with here. Do you see the Flip the Script ability from that Pheasantipity EX who had found its way onto the bench? Pheasantipity EX Flip the Script ability able to be utilized as long as a knockout was taken. We did see a Badoo on the bench, so that Badoo being promoted, Itchy Pollen back into our player 1, 10 damage being done to that active Badoo, and no items for him either this turn. Do you see a Recon directive after the draw for turn, looking at the top 2 cards and putting 1 into the hand, 1 onto the bottom. You see a Crispin being played after the evolution of that Dragapult EX on the bench, going to accelerate an energy into play and put an energy into the hand. Finding 2 different energy types off that Crispin. It is a Psychic Energy and a Dark Energy. Psychic Energy being accelerated into play, and the Dark Energy coming into play on that Munkidori for the attachment for turn. It is important to note that that Dark Energy does hit the hand and then will be attached. Players a lot of times will get a little bit caught up trying to shortcut on those attachments, but we did see just the Crispin attachment and then the attachment for turn. You see a Phantom Dive here, considering where to put those damage counters. Oh, we just actually see the moving of a Munkidori first with that Adrenal Brain ability with that dark type of damage, that Dark Energy being attached. Did see the moving of the damage counter onto that Pheasantipity EX, and then potentially a Phantom Dive, dealing the knockout on that Badoo, taking a prize for our player 1. See the draw for the turn on our player 2, playing of a Pokepad, going into the deck looking for a non-rule box Pokemon. Looking here, having resource back to our items to try to hit that fabled rare candy Crispin Dragapult play. Try to get their own Dragapult EX into play, start spreading some of that damage out, potentially taking a knockout on the Badoo, just putting more HP into play, the ability to deal damage into play here, the finding of that Dracloak off the Pokepad to be able to Recon directive and see some additional cards here. Trying to figure out what our resources may be available. We did see a Phantom Dive last turn, and the picking off of that Torchic that was on the bench from being retreated. It did have 1 damage counter on it, putting it down to 60 damage. I think it was just knocked off and just knocked out just off screen. So our player 1 would have taken 2 prizes. Do see the playing of an Ultra Ball. The rare candy play is not going to be available this turn now, as we found another Dracloak, evolving our active Dreepy into Dracloak. Going to see some more cards off of those Recon directives to be able to figure out what our resources are. Our player 1 is just taking a look at the resources that are in our player 2's discard, taking a look at those Umbreon and Espeon energy cards. Very cool, very interesting way to express yourself. Sometimes in the Pokemon TCG, the arts of the cards that you play, sometimes the energies that are available to you. We're going to see that first Recon directive coming from the active Dragapult, taking a look at 2 cards off top of the deck, 1 to the hand, 1 to the bottom. I think that was a Torchic, looked like a fire Pokemon finding its way onto the bench. We're still trying to get that Blaziken set up if we can. Taking a look at 2 more cards here, looks like a rare candy and a second card, maybe a Buddy Poffin, actually going to find its way to the hand. I did see that little tint of orange. I thought maybe it was Crispin's hair. Turned out it was a Buddy Poffin going to be utilized. Let's go into the deck, find up to two Pokemon with 70 HP or less. Placing them onto the bench is going to be a fresh Dreepy that will hope to be a Dracloak or a Dragapult in the near future to be able to look at more cards or potentially get some Phantom Dives off. Unlikely that we're going to see any damage this turn, unfortunately. A flip of the script as a knockout was taken last turn. Our player 2 getting access to lots of resources here, just not the necessary ones to be able to get an attack. Did not find a Crispin, going to have to shuffle away all of those cards that had landed in the hand. Did see multiple rare candy and a Dragapult EX, so trying to find any option here to kind of get a game plan started. Once you get far behind against a Dragapult EX deck, it does have a habit of running you over. Dragapult EX does a lot of times play both roles, but in the mirror match, it can be tough to find your way back when you don't have the same damage buffs that can come from having those Dusknoirs. You see an energy going to be able to retreat into the Dreepy, trying not to give up those recon directives. Going to see the attachment of a fire energy retreating into the Dreepy, and a pass of the turn over to our player 1, who at least cannot try to boss's orders and take any of those 2 prize liabilities on the bench as of right now, because they could not Meowth due to the Team Rocket's Watchtower in play. We did see the playing of a Crispin, looking for 2 energies of different types, potentially just setting up another Dragapult on the bench, or setting up one of those Dreepy to be able to be a second attacker in the near future, being that Monkey Dory shouldn't need any additional resources, could attach a Psychic Energy if a Mind Bend play needs to be available in the near future. It is just going to be 1 energy on each of those Dreepy, spreading our resources out so that there is not a concern for one of them being targeted down, as well as both of them being able to retreat should they get brought up to the active and left there for any reason. They are not going to be stuck unless they get retreat locked. Unlikely, as the Blaziken build, not known for playing Eveltal, but definitely can as an option. One of those aspects of the Dragapult deck to be able to come back from games. The knockout of that Dreepy with Phantom Dive, 3 damage counters being placed on each of those bench Dracloaks. Again, spreading out damage, spreading out resources, both of those very applicable in this game. We do see a draw for the turn is a Lily's Clefairy EX, an interesting card that could present a threat of a knockout this turn should we see the Lily's Clefairy and a Crispin played, as well as a way to get out of the active, maybe something like an air balloon, going to see a rare candy, or as well as you can utilize a Blaziken, as there was a Torchic still over off screen. We do see a appearance of a Blaziken EX. We know that there are energies in that discard pile for the Blaziken EX's ability to accelerate into play to set up something like a Lily's Clefairy, or just to get this Dracloak out of the active. But we need to find Crispin this turn to be able to get a big knockout. Recon Directive number 1 was had a Brock Scouting in it. Recon Directive 2 has a Dawn in it. Neither one of those are the supporters that we are hoping to see for turn here. We do have an Ultra Ball, but going and getting Meowth, it doesn't get it because we have a packed out bench. That is frustrating. Trying to be able to look for what maybe those comeback plays that Dragapult can find so well, knowing that your opponent would need to find a lot to be able to get it on the next turn. Drawing of 3 more cards, Dragapult EX, Boss's Orders, Monkey Dory, all great cards, all phenomenal resources usually, but not in this current spot. Really wanting to see that Crispin to be able to accelerate energies into play, as we have seen our player 1 utilize so well. Even a Rosa's Encouragement would allow us to get an attack off with the Dragapult, but right now just that Dracloak in the active with the 30 damage on it our player 2 no energies in play. We do see that dark energy in the hand, but nothing really to retreat into. We could retreat into the Blaziken just to put a Pokemon with higher HP into the active. We could boss's orders to try to force the dark energy off of the Monkey Dory. Nope, just gonna see a concession. That hand is locked up. Those energies were not available. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time.